Hi everyone, and thank you to the guys that left me wonderful comments on my last video, and thanks to the haters and the crybabies that and thanks to the Stormfront and Reddit and 4chan crew for the "We Was Kongs" comments. Look, you all just crybabies. I'm gonna continue making these videos. You can cry and cry, who cares? Anyway, today's video is by a really based Middle Eastern, quote unquote, Mediterranean man who absolutely just destroys everyone. So sit back and relax and listen to this really awesome guy.
I've seen when black people claim that the ancient Hebrews and Jews were black people and Jesus was not a white man. Many white people come across and say, okay, Jesus was not a white man, but he wasn't a black person either, because he was from the Middle East, and therefore, according to them, he must have looked like Arabs.
Exactly. This is the classic modern day population fallacy. So like if you were to go to Egypt or Israel and take samples of their DNA, of course you're going to find them that they're related to each other. They're right next door. But that's because they're both modern day populations. Anyway, let me not interrupt this brilliant guy. Let's listen to some more.
Just because the modern population of a region looks like X doesn't mean that the ancient inhabitants of that region looked also like X. For example, look at Australia. Are white Australians descended from the ancient Aborigines, or are white Mexicans descended from the ancient Mayans? Of course not. The Middle East is the most melting pot region of the world. There are black, white, brown, Indian-looking and Mongol-looking people in this region, all of whom claim to be native and indigenous to this region. And for example, in Arabs, there are black, white, and mixed, the so-called brown Arabs, all of whom claim to be the real Arabs. But which of them is the real Arab? The black one, the white one, or the brown one? The same goes for Iran. There are many different ethnic groups in Iran. There are Mongoloid-looking Turkmens, there are Indian-looking Baluch, there are native blacks, there are white-looking Turks, there are mixed-looking Kurds and Lurs. Which of them is the true Iranian?
By the way, this guy, he's from the region, so he's an expert. He knows what he's talking about, right? A lot of people are completely ignorant of basically the fact that he's just laid out. Most people around the world only see the television representation, the media representation of people from these regions. When you think about a Turk, you have an image in your head of what a Turkish person looks like, whereas a good percentage of Turkish people or Turkic people have a more central to maybe even East Asian appearance. A lot of people from Iraq, Iran, and all those places do have a darker hue that we might be made to believe in the media. Anyway, let's hear some more.
And unlike what the believers of the Indo-European hoax claim, the white-looking people in this region are not descended from the ancient mythical Indo-Europeans. These people are mostly Turks or descended from Turks. For example, here in Iran, up to 40% of people are Turks, and I don't know how many of them are descended from Turks, meaning are related to Turks. And the most white-looking people of Iran are mostly Turks. But there are also Russian, Georgian, and Armenian people too living in this region. And we all know that Turks are not an indigenous people to this region. They came from southern Russia and the Central Asia in recent centuries.
That's 100% correct. Turkic people are from the area that is referred to as Asia Minor, right? So that's Anatolia, which is, well, overlaps current day Turkey, but also east into what is now the Kurdish area of Iraq, some parts of Iran, and up north to Afghanistan and the Stan countries, almost bordering with Mongolia. This is the origin of the Turkic people, and the current day location of Turkey is really a little bit to the west of their actual origin. So I 100% agree with him. And he's about to drop a proper bomb. I'm not sure I completely agree with this next bit, but he's the expert, not me. So let's hear him.
And they cannot be an indigenous people to this region. The ancient inhabitants of the ancient peoples of the Middle East were all different types of black people, different groups of black people. Assyrians were a black people, Persians were a black people, Elamites were a black people, and Arabs, yes, were a black people. That's why you see Assyrians have depicted themselves with curly hair, curly beard, and dreadlocks. That's why you see Persians have depicted themselves with curly hair and curly beard. And even there are many wall paintings found in Susa in which Persians have depicted themselves with black skin, have painted themselves with black skin. So therefore Persians were black people, not a so-called Indo-European.
Well, okay. I mean, the crybabies are not going to like that, but you heard him. Well, in my opinion, a lot of people were dark-skinned. Obviously, probably not the same phenotypical appearance as people in the Gambia and Western Africa, or maybe Southern Africa. But to an extent, I do agree that at this period of time in history, that most of the world probably had a dark-skinned appearance of the same hue as what you see in Africa today.
And I believe that Persians, Assyrians, Arabs, and all of the ancient inhabitants of the Middle East were an Ethiopian type of people, the so-called Semitics, an Ethiopian type of people. People like the Somalis, like Ethiopians, like Eritreans, like Djiboutis, like dark-skinned Yemenis. They weren't a white people. Why? Because the temperature here in this city goes up to 50 degrees Celsius in summers with a high intensity and a UV index of 12. White people cannot endure this heat. They cannot tolerate this heat. So they cannot be indigenous to this region. Because we semi-white looking people cannot stand this heat. We cannot go outside too much in summers. But how can white people be indigenous to this region? And I don't say this because I'm racist. As you can see, I'm not a black person, and I look mostly like whites than blacks. I just want to tell the truth that the ancient inhabitants of these regions, from Babylonians, Assyrians, Elamites, Persians, Jews, were all black.
Well, there you have it. Thank you for watching and cue in all the tears.